a tram and making me do speeches to Japanese tourists, 27 times a day. But when I was about, as soon as I could read, I always read, but as soon as I was old enough to read, what do they call, big boy books. I would go to the public library, and there was a girl I had a crush on. I had crushes on girls from like as long as I can remember. And there was a contest at this library, and she lived across the street from the library, and she was killing it. She'd read all these books. Like, how many books could you read over the summer? And I thought, I'm going to try and impress this girl by reading more books than she did. And her name was I think it was Jan Franks, and the little redheaded girl. It's a total Charlie Brown story. So over that summer, I read so much that I got hooked. And my mother was a big reader. And weirdly enough, I mean, what mother in her right mind introduces her 11-year-old boy to Kurt Vonnegut? But I just turned me into a voracious reader. And from that point on, I wanted to be a writer, and I could identify with writing. So writing's brought me into this business, and it's given me that beautiful thing where you get paid for talent. And that's actually the headline, I think, of my whole career is I'm so lucky I get paid for having some talent, and I'm so lucky to have any talent at all. So again, sorry about the long answer, Frank, but I love writing radio, and I love writing the format I like a lot right now is because video is something that's producible now, and that you don't have to have huge budgets and 20 levels of client to produce anything that goes on the air. You can just do it all the time. So it allows you to be prolific. So those are the areas that I'm still really interested in. You mentioned earlier that we might talk about AI. I'm kind of grateful AI is around because I hate writing web.
Oh, well, it's one of the questions I was going to ask you. I said, once this is up on the web, if there was a potential client that was watching this, what kind of message would you want to leave that client with?
Oh, man.
I mean, so far.
Let me see. Do you own Wembley Stadium, and would you like to book the adolescents for a show?
Very funny. Yes, right. Well, one of the guys that used to work for me at one time, at least I think he did, Mark Smitkus, was a marketing consultant, and said he had the opportunity to work with you on a national retail account.
Yeah.
And out of the box doesn't begin to describe the ideas that you help fuel. I mean, what does he mean out of the box?
Well, you remember Steve Verlack?
Well, sure.
Yeah, so Steve was a bit of a mentor to me. I was his creative under the flag of Catalyst Advertising. We worked on a whole bunch of stuff together. Steve and I went to this conference once where they did this thing where they said, you have 4 different areas of your skill sets. There's things you're incompetent with, there's things you're competent with, there's things you're excellent with, and there's things that are a unique ability. And the unique ability is the one that you just take for granted. You don't think it has very much value because it comes so naturally to you, it's not work. And I think the thing is that I'll look at a project or I'll look at a piece of work, and I will almost immediately understand it. And then I'll see how it can work in ways that are different enough and inspiring enough that they feel like they're going to be interesting to a consumer. And that comes to me like that. I never really have to work for it. And I'll find that I get kicked under the table a lot in pitch meetings because I'll give away the idea in the meeting. Because it just comes to me so easily. I don't really have to think about it.
It's hard to charge a client. Hard to charge a client for something. My argument used to be it might come quick to me, but it took me 50 years for it to come quick. So
there's a lot to that. It's how do you monetize your big mouth?
That's true. I mean, you said somewhere I read that a creative director's job was to be acting like a filter.
Yeah.
And you also said that most advertising creative isn't effective for one simple reason. It's logical, and it got approved because it hit all the arguments, but put forward in the brief. Do you still feel that way? I mean,
well, that's the thing. I believe that the worst job in the world is a director of marketing, because everybody in the company puts pressure on you because it's subjective. So you have a subjective job where people have objective goals. And it's generally the CMO. I remember years ago I did a talk to a bunch of CMOs, and I spent about 90 minutes giving them shit, because it's like, you think that people make rational decisions. And I think I said to them, like, what color is your car? Well, it's red. Why'd you guys get red? Well, because I like red. So was that a rational or an irrational decision? Nobody, like, and it's backed by research. Most decisions are made for emotional or irrational reasons.
I agree.
The thing is for a marketing director to survive in an environment where everybody has an opinion and everybody is expecting rational results. Data helps a lot, right? Yeah. But a good message is a good message. Ideas get torn to shreds until they just become some sort of rational argument that says, buy a red car because it's easier to see on a bright day and you'll have fewer accidents. Yeah. Where you're buying the fucking car to get laid.
Yeah, right. I find that very funny because right now, in my opinion, for what it's worth, is I said, we're currently living probably in the most boring time of advertising, because this is the way I feel. Because when I look at what's on TV, if you're watching TV, I go, God, that's bad. I mean, yeah. How did they even approve that? Or the client didn't want to take any risk at all.
Yeah. Every day. And I'm sure, Frank, you probably have a file in your head that's very current of good ads that are dying as we speak of rationality.
Yeah, well, there's so many ads on TV right now that I go, why did they do that? I mean, I would never buy your product ever. If you want to run that ad one more time during this broadcast, you want to run this ad one more time, I'm going to phone the client and say, I'm never going to come to your store again and buy anything from you because you're driving me nuts. So you also talked about the immortal creative platform, impatient, lack of actual legs, and incompatibility with the product. Does that sort of fall in line with what we're talking about now?
Compatibility. Well, I'm a big fan of I mean, I think that this is the holy grail, and all those other overused metaphors. But if I'm an F1 fan now because I got sucked into watching that show on Netflix, and but an immortal creative platform only really, we call it that because you can just keep spinning it out. So Red Bull gives you wings. Nike, just do it. These are things there's an idea after an idea after an idea after an idea, and you can just keep going. But the thing is that it has to be compatible. I mean, Built Ford Tough was a great line.
Great line.
It's too bad Toyota didn't use it.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I drive a 94 Ford F-150. I love my clunky old truck, right? And it is Built Ford Tough. But the most recalled vehicle in North America is about to be the Ford F-150 that's been built this year. Right. So you have to follow through. Red Bull does a really good job because they basically promote their brand. Red Bull gives you wings through demonstration, through acts of daring do and courage and just abject stupidity and near suicide. You know, guys jumping off balloons at 7 miles above the earth. Or,
you know what? I'm going to show you that right now. Red Bull shows his wings.
Yeah.
Red Bull gives you wings.
I'm going to show you next. I'm going to show you one of those crazy stunts that you just mentioned. How would you ever find anybody that would want to do that?
I mean, I love that. And here's the thing I talk about, going back to irrationality, is that if an idea makes you respond without planning it, I mean, so if you see something that makes you laugh or shocks you or makes you nervous, it's a good idea. And that's part of the creative director filter. If it hits me, if I feel that, I know I've got to go forward with that idea. Well, watching that Red Bull video right now, that scared the shit. That scared me.
Oh, sure.
I felt
Listen,
something.
I know that you may know this, but I own that Zip Trek line up in Whistler.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And the longest line in North America is called the Sasquatch. And when I had to go on it because I'm an owner to test it,
Yeah.
I don't like heights.
Me neither.
They scare me.
It scared me of that.
And I got off of it. I was like this, taking, and I know that Red Bill didn't always have it their way because they ended up getting sued $13 million at one point in time for false advertising. But nevertheless, it probably $13 million was nothing to them with the sales of Red Bull and what they were doing worldwide. And I would still, you talked again about a couple of things that about writing was your favorite. And you wrote a book called Finders and Keepers. And I've got a picture of the book here in case somebody wants to go onto Amazon and look it up.
Needs an update. It's 9 years old now. Technology's moved on a little bit, but I think the premise still stands up.
Is that still the cover of the book?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's about 8. Why did you write the book?
We did a project right at the end of the actually right in the teeth of the Great Recession. We got a contract to sell all the luxury condominiums for the Four Seasons in Denver, Colorado. And while we were doing it, we worked with a guy named Chris Norton, who was using some research, and I got my hands on the research. And Chris figured out how to sell all these $1 million condos at full price right in the middle of a recession when nobody wanted to buy property. And the creative platform that I developed off of his research was, don't treat it as an investment, treat it like you're buying a boat. Because everybody wants a boat and they know they're not going to make money on it. It's just the sheer pleasure of it. So I got into the research, and what the research did was the best way to boil it down is that there's essentially two kinds of consumers, and I always use this description for it, is that there's a kind of consumer who walks into a grocery store and they look at the prices of the eggs and they go, okay, that's a dozen eggs and it's going to cost me $3.99. That's the best price on the eggs. They don't really care about anything else, right? Their world is filled with things that are a commodity because they're always based on price. And then there's the other consumer who walks into that store, if they go into that store at all, and they look for kind of the ratty looking egg carton with the brownest eggs. And if they open up the carton and there's a feather on it, they don't give a shit about it. They don't care about the price. They're going to buy the eggs. And so that's what in my book I call a finder. And the guy who wants to save the money is the keeper. But there's all examples of how these consumers behave. And you'll see them all the time. And Frank, you're probably trying to identify yourself right now.
No, but I like your thought, because I'm thinking right now creatively, because I came from that kind of world myself. I think I would find my way of putting a feather in every box of eggs, brown eggs.
Yeah. Well, living on Bowen Island, I actually go to the farmer and buy the eggs now. So like, yeah. I'm a super finder.
But well, you had two things in 2 points in your book that I liked, and one was called the commodity curse, and you talked about the 5 kinds of commodities, and one of them was finding no actual difference between the products. And of course, right now, today, everything is almost a commodity, right?
Yeah. The way that we buy things has changed so much. I'm sure you purchase off of Amazon, and sure. And we were actually in Spring did a project. Actually, I'm going to grab you the package. I hope I'm not getting ahead of you.
No,
but we wanted to try on the Amazon marketplace, so we put this product out.
Poop like a champion.
So
is that an actual product you produced?
Yeah, we actually produced this product. We went down to the state. We got a formula for it. We went down to a cereal manufacturer. We had the cereal made. We did the packaging. paid all of paid all the Amazon fees, learned all about Amazon, learned all about Amazon marketing, and sold the company about 2 years later.
Who's doing the product now? Is it still alive?
It's still live. It's live in the States. Not on you can't get it in Canada because there's more money to be made. But anyways, pricing is a weird thing now because everything's so commoditized. You're actually you look at the price to try and figure out the quality. I don't know a damn thing about wine, but I know that I'm going to look like a cheapskate if I buy something for under $20. And I know it's going to probably be pretty good if it's over 30.
Well, I think that if you're not understanding much about wine, which I can't say that I do, but I know one wine's better than the other. But I think that at one point in time, I used to buy wine because I liked the label.
You and my wife would get along great.
Yeah. Well, now it seems that the world has changed because we're living in this influencer world, and it seems that young people now follow influencers more than advertising, and they agree with what Kim Kardashian or the Rock might say. Buy this, buy that.
You ever been to the donut shop on Granville Island?
No, I don't think so.
So I had an office on Granville Island for 7 years, and and Lee's Donuts is down there. Lee's Donuts was always this sleepy little donut spot. And the donuts were, I mean, all due respect, subjective. The donuts were donuts. They were okay. Seth Rogen tweeted about them, and now there's a special lineup for Lee's Donuts.
Yeah.
So you got to ask yourself, did the influencer make the donuts better?
No.
But
not awareness to
here we are, two sinners pointing at the other sinners, because does advertising make the donuts better?
Yeah.
So it's the same game. I think you and I have talked about this before too, is that our form of advertising in the agency frame, in the way that we create things, is under a threat of obsolescence at the moment.
Right.
And one of the reasons you talked about this earlier on, why do we do so many things in spring? Because we've been moving to keep spring viable for 17 years in the face of of changing habits. And we do a lot of our work on TikTok now. I didn't even know what TikTok was 2 years ago, and maybe I won't know what it is in 2 years from now. So,
have you used
that influencer point? I think if I was to do it all over again, you'd probably do the same thing. I might just be an agent for influencers.
Oh, there are agencies for influencers now too.
I'd be bored to tears.
Yeah. Well, there's even small influencers and large influencers.
Yeah.
Have you I mentioned chat or AI and chat GPT. Have you used it at all?
Yeah, I use it. I think I said earlier on, I've never liked writing websites. I get bored. I'm a headline writer and a concept guy. And as you can see, I wrote a book, I write blogs. I like to write. The structure of a website is that I know the user experience is they don't want to read anyways. No. So I use Chat GPT now when I'm faced with a website, but I'll rewrite it about 7 or 8 times. But all it does is it's like having a junior writer. And I feel bad for junior writers now, because junior writers used to get the jobs that the senior writers didn't want to do until they got to be senior writers and they could hand that stuff off. And now a lot of the junior writers are an AI. And, frighteningly, the senior writers will soon be an AI as well.
I was asked a question the other day about AI, and I said, AI will not replace creative people in our industry, but it will replace creative people in our industry that don't use AI.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Because I find myself sometimes I go on there, I want a little tip and I get it. But if I switch topics for a minute, talked about the industry being a bit tougher. Are you finding getting new business tougher today than ever before, or are you just fine with what you're doing?
Well, it has changed, but the business has always been based on relationships.
Right.
We've picked up the odd cold call client along the way. Opportunities for networking are different now because people are we've become a world of introverts. There isn't a social milieu that there used to be where you could make friends and build relationships the way one used to be able to. But on the other side of it, I find that it's just a little harder because of that form of obsolescence that we just talked about, is that
Right.
clients have a very wide palette. They've got a lot of toys in their toy box that they can go shopping for.
Right.
And we've gone from being the box to one of the toys.
Yeah, very interesting comment. You've over the years, you've had these clients for numbers of years, and I'm going to show just a bit of creative here. But you had the Capilano suspension bridge, which you mentioned.
Yeah.
You've done work for Red Truck Beer, Remax, IGA, and I'm going to show you a little bit of creative here on the suspension bridge.
Hanging with the
So, this is my neck of the woods. I use these bridges pretty much every day. As you can see, they're just beautiful. So I couldn't be happier that I get a whole season's pass for the price of one visit, just for being a local BC resident. Now I can come up here to think or explore. Sometimes I frolic to and fro, but mostly I just come up here to snack. A lot. Ready when you are, Alan. Okay. And go. Stubby boy. Brian. Oh, Brian. Don't give up on me, Brian. Don't give up on me. Brian. Oh.
What makes that client special? Because you've had them for years, right?
Having grown up with family businesses, it's a family business. I love working with entrepreneurs. And there's another thing that there seems to be a rarity of nowadays in this little market that we call this Vancouver, is that it's quite an abundant company. They charge a premium price for a premium experience. They get a good volume of customer, and they're not afraid to invest in the work that we do. So it's really nice. And I have to say, they are one of the toughest clients to present creative to that I'll ever experience. Keeps me humble, man. Keeps me humble. So when we get to bring them a crazy idea, oh yeah, we're going to dress a bunch of guys up in squirrel suits and make them choke on, make them choke on chestnuts. The victory is just so sweet.
Well, let's take a look here at what you did, a little bit of work that you did on IGA Fresh for a number of years. I'm going to play a TV spot here and a radio spot.
Okay.
Was there a radio spot there now too?
Dear Fresh Street Market, you think you can waltz up in here, rip up our store, make it look beautiful, and bring in Vogue cakes and Benny's bagels and fresh Terra granola and Portofino baked goods and all this amazing local BC stuff and think, oh, they're gonna love it. Well, I'm here to say as if, and to also ask if you're open, because I like it a lot.
Fresh Street Market is open while under renovation in Whistler. Sorry about that.
How did you get to do a TV spot on how to squeeze a lemon or cook an egg? I mean, how did that come about?
Oh, those are social videos. So that was part of the strategy. We did a brand refresh on IGA for Georgia Maine, which is part of the HY Louis Group, about 5 years ago. We quite a coincidence. The thing is that IGA came to us a number of years ago and said, "Hey, listen, we need a new market. This is what we've turned into, and it's great. Is that IGA is more of a carry the basket than push the cart kind of a shop. So that's a millennial and a Gen Z shopper. So we came up with the whole simple goodness idea and concept and built around that, just to say, okay, this is the uncomplicated, pick up your stuff, kind of use your muscle memory to go shopping in these stores where you know where everything is. But on top of that, we recognize that there's a lot of first-time shoppers that were appearing in their audience, particularly in their urban markets. And they didn't know how to do things like cook eggs. And the search activity around those things is, you want to own the search activity on how to cook an egg. You want to be the one, you want to be the YouTube video that comes up on how to make gravy. So we just went after that, and we made dozens of these things and popped them onto YouTube. So they'd be the one that generation. Oh my God, I just used the term that generation. That demographic would look at.
Well, I don't think you're aging yourself. Everything we talked about today is still up to date. And one of the things that's still up to date is the fact that when you did, you've also been known for the branding you guys have been doing. And one of your clients is Love Child Organic. So I'm going to show one or two here, just and you can comment afterwards. Nice brand, very nice branding.
Thanks. That was a hypothesis that we actually got to launch, and it went like this. We had this entrepreneur come in with an organic baby food concept. They wanted to call it something that was kind of pretty granola and Birkenstocks, and I thought, well, if you're already in the baby food market, you come in and out of the baby food market for little windows. I got three kids. You got kids, Frank. You know, you're into baby food for this little window, and then you're out. And it had all been Gerber, and it had all been these big monoliths. This is basically the Heinz ketchup of baby food. And we thought, well, let's carve a niche. Let's try and do cool baby food, because there's always a market. First-time parents always still want to hang on to being cool. And that's why they spend a ridiculous amount of money on some brand of a stroller and car seat and whatever it is that they could sort of hang on to their whatever it was they were before they were parents that they'll never be again. So I thought, why don't we come up with a cool name for baby food, something that feels a little dangerous? And Love Child felt like a good dangerous name. So I remember being terrified of pitching this to the client because I loved the idea so much. I was just like, this cannot fail. And but we created a niche, which we like to call cool baby food. And the biggest mistake is that we didn't let them give us, we didn't ask for any stock, because they turned around and made zillions of dollars when they sold the company 3 years later.
Yeah, we didn't learn that back in the early stages of our career, to take a piece of the action instead of some money.
Yeah.
We learned about that a little bit too late. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions now from the audience. In the